Thank you very much. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge we are in Treaty One territory, the home of traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Inuit, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I'd like to introduce the panel this morning via Zoom, Kent Seelan and Carrie Linklater. Myself, I'm chairing this morning's hearing, and my name is Mike Trugoyle. From the assessment department, we have Clayton Deitchen, and the administrator for the personnel this morning is Phoebe Graywood. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it's your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along in the City of Winnipeg Board Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing is concluded, you can leave the meeting. We'll be hearing application for revision of the assessment role in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act and the City of Winnipeg's charter. For the matters for which revision is requested has been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if matter pertains to assessed value, or to Court of King's Bench if matter pertains to application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1 through 8 on our docket today. Ms. Graywood, please affirm the assessors and the applicant's testimony.
Mr. Deitchen, please state your full name.
Clayton Deitchen.
Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Stipp, please state your full name.
Trevor Smith.
Do you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Deitchen, we have item number 180 Lowson Crescent. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, this is file number 24-4855. It's 180 Lowson Crescent. Business assessment ID is 55944. You can see on page 1, it is one premise area of 33,905 square feet at a base ARV per square foot of 1453, and with the occupancy cost brings the ARV to 578,940. On page 1, you can see a bit of a description of the property. So this is a dealership, a car dealership. I believe it's Jaguar. It was recently built in 2021. Again, the area is 33,905 square feet. Page 2 is just an overhead view of the property. Page 3 is just another view of the property from above. Page 4 is kind of the map view of the subject property. Then page 5 is an exterior photo of the subject as well. And then page 6 is the board revision order for the realty 2025 realty. You see the value was reduced from $7,802,000 to $6,403,000. On page 7, you could see the board's conclusion was based on the NOI presented by the Assessment Taxation Department, and with a cap rate of 7.25%. Getting on to page 8, 9, 10, and 11 are the rent comparables. So there's a bunch of the retail, as we use for these VCDs. We use the retail properties, retail stores. The main ones looking at are on page 9. Are ones on Pembina Grant, I would say, are relatively close, but the best ones are probably on page 10. The ones on Sterling Line, Keniston, McGillivray. And you can see, yeah, comps 42 to 60. They range, well, they're all around about $20, with the average being 21.51, weighted average being 20.91, and the median being 20.30 for these properties. And continue on to page 12 is just the excerpt from the municipal board that essentially states that the board was satisfied that the subject, being car dealerships, are similar to large national and international retail properties located in or near regional shopping facilities, and that is why we use the retail properties, as you guys have probably seen many times. I didn't want to put the whole document in because it's quite long, but that is where it sums it up. And then just pages 13 and 4 and to 16 are just the applicant's information. I'm not really going to go into it as he'll speak to it, but you can see on page 16 that he was during the realty appeal at 1350. We're at 1453 for the rents. I mean, we're relatively close. Even looking at some of the comparables, they're in the ballpark of where we are for our rent for the retail properties. And then just continue on to pages 17 forward are the mailers for the property. And that is my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nation. Mr. Smith, questions at this point?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And if I may make a suggestion, most of my questions will, for the first property today, will be the same questions that I would have for the remainder of the property. So if we can ask them once and carry them forward to the remainder of the properties.
Sounds good to me. Please carry on.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so I just want to confirm the rental rate information that the city has included, your BCD rent comparables numbers 1 to 80. I'm not sure what pages these are, but there's 80 of them in total. That's the exact same information that was presented in the realty appeals for the subject property and the other properties here today, I believe.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And these these properties they're broadly divided up into areas, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And the comparables themselves are typically they're all big box retail, correct? With I think there's a movie theater or two in here, but
yeah,
generally speaking, they're big box retail.
Yeah, retail and a couple fitness, and yeah.
Okay. And again, generally speaking, or nearly exclusively, they're all on power center nodes. Is that correct? Where they're on the sites that are anchored by your larger big box anchor stores such as Walmart, Home Depot, Co-op Foods, Real Canadian Superstore, things of that nature. Is that accurate?
I would say yes. I don't know exactly what they're all close to, but generally they're close to shopping nodes, I guess.
Okay, and I think for the subject properties here, or that rather the first two, so 180 and 200 Lawson, you were referring to comps number 42 to 60 as being in the, I guess, most appropriate because they're in the subject area. Is that correct?
I would say those are the closest, yes.
Okay. So those comps, when I go through them and identify what they are, we're looking at comps that are on the again, the anchored power center nodes surrounding Kenniston and McGilvery and or the IKEA Seasons of Tuxedo locations with as well as Linden Ridge Shopping Center, the new development in Southwest. Is that correct?
I would say yes for the most part.
Okay. And then just flipping to, so I'm not sure, is this the municipal board order? That is page 14, is it?
That is
Yes,
page.
I just want to make sure I have the right number.
Yeah, I don't know why the page number is. It's page
Okay.
12 of the PDF.
So, okay, yes, so page 12 then.
Yeah.
You have the 2003 municipal board order.
Mhm.
And this is what the city is relying on for their valuation model, correct?
Can you repeat the question? I don't follow.
Sure. So the city of Winnipeg is relying on this particular municipal board decision in guiding their valuation in using exclusively big box retail in the valuation of auto dealerships. Is that correct?
Yes, from my understanding, yeah.
Okay, and the city is of course aware that there was a later 2004 municipal board decision on automobile dealerships as well, which was based on another methodology looking at automotive dealership rents in determining the fair market value of auto dealerships.
I can't speak to that. It's not my evidence today.
Okay, but the city is aware of it, correct?
I'm not aware of this. I'm not sure.
Okay, I guess I will speak to that in my evidence. Didn't know that it would necessarily need to be brought up, but we can do that. And then my evidence as presented in the realty appeal for the subject property is then on the following pages. I guess I'm confused why this is included. What was the intent of providing that information? Not that I'm changing anything, but I'm curious as to why it's showing up in the city's brief.
Just to show that we are close in our rents, and the comparables that you had, a lot of them are relatively close to where we are.
Okay. It's just something I haven't seen before. I wasn't sure what the reason there was. I think I'll leave my questions at that for now. I may have more later on future properties, but for the moment, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Linkletter, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sealer, any questions at this point?
Yes, so the base ARV value of $14.53, is that model driven, or is that based on the BOR revised revision,
That's model driven.
model driven? Okay. Okay. So that's all. Any questions, Mr. Chair? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'll just state the obvious here. You have a rent of $14.53 that you're using for the base rent of the annual rental value on the business assessment, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And I believe the information that you provided in your brief shows that Mr. Smith was using $13.50 a square foot. I believe that's still the case this morning, correct?
It is correct.
Correct, Mr. Dyson?
Yeah, I believe so. Yep.
All right. All right, I think for my questions, Mr. Smith, you're up, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll address a couple of points to start with. All panel members here are aware, I'm sure there's an upcoming what they refer to as a test case at the Manitoba Municipal Board regarding automotive dealerships and the valuation of them. Reason for this is there's 200 to 300 outstanding Manitoba Municipal Board appeals on both realty and business on auto dealerships, both from appellants and the city. So there's huge disagreement over the valuation of these particular properties. The last time that auto dealerships actually went through a hearing process at the municipal board were those two cases that were referred to earlier. One of them, the city has presented in their evidence, which is the 2003 decision, which refers to, it doesn't say big box because they weren't called big box at the time, but they're talking about big box realty as being the base for looking at rental rates and cap rates and modeling this particular type of property. Now, that was 2003, 2004. 1 year later, there was another decision that came out in which the city is also aware of, because I had a hearing on Monday that that evidence was also presented by the city. And many other hearings, we all know about both of the decisions. In any case, that particular decision came out and was based on using automotive dealership rents in determining the valuation model for auto dealerships. And there were some at that time arm's length rents that were available. There were some book rents that were referred to in the decision, which, you know, is obviously not perhaps the best way to go, but it was a mix. And the decision was based on automotive dealership rents. So the municipal board has provided unclear direction on the proper methodology for valuing these properties. What the city has done in recent cycles, certainly stretching back through 2016, I believe, is utilize this big box retail valuation methodology in determining their assessment for these properties. Now, and they're guided in that by that singular earlier decision for automotive dealerships at the Manitoba Municipal Board. Now, the reason for the test case is that obviously there's significant disagreement on how to value these properties. So we're going forward with that test case. It happens in June. I am one of the, I'm representing the property owner in this appeal, along with numerous other people in our team. And the city obviously is on the other side. And we'll be presenting our information, getting a decision with the intent that the decision, if agreed to by the parties, is intended to guide the outstanding municipal board appeals. So that's the point that we're at. There is no set methodology for these. The fact that the city relies on this is fine, they can do so, but it's not set in stone, or does it necessarily mean that it's gospel and should absolutely be followed? So what we're left with is the situation where we need to determine what the proper methodology is. So the challenge for both sides is that there are no true arm's length market leases for first run auto dealerships in the marketplace. So branded dealerships, essentially, your Fords, your Chevs, your Mazdas, your Hondas, etc. You know, your mainline brand new car dealerships with service, full dealerships. There are a few minor and very few minor leases out there for used auto dealers that are typically in obsolete dealerships that are too small and not in typical locations for auto dealers in the modern era. So there really is no information to rely on for us to go to the market and say, here's what the market tells us these are renting for, this is what they should rent for assessment purposes. So both the city and ourselves are left with determining what that model is. The city uses strictly retail. The reason that in our professional opinion is inaccurate is there's a number of reasons. The structure of the property is not the same. When you look at an auto dealership, the property is clearly divided into two essential components. The first component being the front showroom retail portion of the property with associated supportive office in that section as well. And then behind that, typically walled off, you have the second component, and that is the automotive service and repair section of the property. Very clear distinction between front and back. When you walk from the front showroom, which is, you know, tiled and drop ceilings and you know, a little bit nicer, obviously, you walk from that back through the lounges, through the, you know, the concrete block wall or whatever the dividing line is into the back end. There's a very clear distinction. You're now in automotive service. It's concrete floors, it's drains, it's bare walls, it's exposed ceilings. There's nothing that's the same at all. You have the overhead doors, obviously, for getting the cars in and out, all of the service components that go along with it. There's a hard line between the front and the back. So if you think about it logically, is there any connection between looking at wholesale, taking big box store rents and saying, okay, you know, tenant X at the Smart Center at Kenniston Common pays $17 per square foot for their wholly retail space, and taking that rent and saying, okay, we'll make an adjustment to it and place it wholesale on this auto dealership that is clearly two components. In my opinion, there's really a very large disconnect there, just based on the structure alone. Getting beyond that, having been involved in commercial brokerage for a long time, and you know, having knowledge of the participants in these deals at close range, I know that the tenants that are locating in these power center nodes have no interest in locating wholesale into a automobile dealership. The building wouldn't work for them, the location wouldn't work for them, and critically, they're not in the retail agglomeration that drives the best business for their business. So they would never choose to locate down the street where the automobile dealerships are located, because it separates them from all their peers in retail. When those power center nodes are developed, the developers get their anchor tenants to start with. So those being your Walmarts, your Real Canadian Superstores, your Home Depots, your Canadian Tires, stores of that magnitude and Covenant and Draw. Everybody has need to go to those particular retailers, and those retailers draw tenants to that site automatically on a more common basis than say a single big box, smaller store on its own in some place. So the model is very clear. The anchor tenants are established by the developers. First of all, the locations that they pick are the extreme high traffic locations. So your corners of, say, Denniston and McGilvery. You have the New Seasons, obviously, down the street. Look at Regent, Lajimoje. That's where these power center nodes develop because they have the most traffic, draws the most customers, drives the most business for their tenants. So the anchors are established. All of the smaller big box store tenancies, still national tenants, want to locate on those centers because they know that they will drive more business for their business by being on that site. And as a result, they're willing to pay the higher rents that the developer demands to be located on those sites. So it's very clear that when you look at big box stores that are located on these power center nodes, your smart centers, etc., the rents are going to be considerably higher than what one of those tenants would pay in a different location down the street without the same draw that those locations have. So that's the background. That is the issue with the city's modeling, relying exclusively on big box retail development in valuing these properties. So in our model, what I have done is, following appraisal theory and assessment theory, is look in the absence of having true arm's length evidence to rely on in determining the valuation for this particular type of property, you need to look at what the property is and what the structure of the property and the uses of the property. So what do we have? Well, as I've noted, and I'm sure you've all heard this before, but I'll direct you to my text on it. If you look at my page number 14, as I've already mentioned, you have the retail showroom component at the front of the property with the supportive office, your finance offices, your admin, etc., all part of the retail showroom. And then you have the second component, the automotive service and repair. So what would those components lease for on the open market? And as their uses for comparable properties, again, on the open market. Now, having said all of that with regard to big box retail rents, we do look at big box retail rents, but the distinction between what the city has done in using almost exclusively big box rents from these power center nodes and what we present is location is critical. So if you look at the comparables that we provide on the retail side, we're looking at, yes, dominantly big box rents, but they're in locations that are either immediately adjacent to automotive dealerships or in locations that are similar to where automotive dealerships have located, such as, you know, the towards the periphery of your Pembinas, your Portage Avenues, your McPhillips's, etc. So there's a clear distinction there, and if you look at the rents that we provide, they are lower than what tenants pay on those power center nodes. So that's the background. I am conscious of our time here, so I will try and make this as concise as I can, but please keep that background in mind as we move forward. The Page number 3 will give you some background on the subject property of the 2025. 2025 business assessment shown there for $578,940. Yes, the 2025 realty was decided with only a cap rate cut. We have appealed that to the municipal board, as indeed has the city of Winnipeg. You go back to the 2023 realty assessment and the 2023 business assessment, as you can see there, they were reduced significantly. Both of those were reduced based on my evaluation of the property, which was at the time $13 per square foot. I have included those decisions as well as my evidence from that in the addendum materials of the brief following, I believe, the income and expense for the subject property. All right, let's move forward. So it is a newer development, built in 2021, new auto dealership sitting on 4.2 acres. I see that it isn't included here, but it has a relatively low land to plan area ratio. For auto dealers, it's important to have enough land to display their product for sale, to park clients' cars for automotive service, and to have circulation on the lot and parking for their employees as well. So typically, we're looking for an 8-to-1 ratio at a minimum. This would certainly be below that, but the property is what it is, and that was the available property for development when the owners moved forward with this development. So let's have a quick look at the photos. It is new. You can see photos beginning on page 4, exterior. Then we have the showroom on page numbers 4 and 5 with the finance office, etc. And we move forward onto page 6. You have service area being shown. You can see the very clear distinction between what the front of the building is and what the rear of the building is. Then we have some mezzanine office area, parts, staff lounge, etc. I won't run through the rest of it. The site is shown on page number 9. You can see that that would be certainly below 8-to-1. And then the location is shown on page number 10 with the site at 180 Lowson highlighted there kind of in the middle of the page. So if you look at the location of the property, it is not where IKEA and the adjacent development is. It's not where Seasons of Tuxedo is. It's to the south of that. If you drive down Kenaston there, it is industrial development that is on that side and indeed on the other side. If you continue heading south and you go past the winter snow pile and over the train tracks, you come to the retail power center nodes that have been developed around Kenaston and McGillivray. So they're labeled there for you. You have the Linden Ridge Shopping Center with Canadian Tire, Anchor, and many other big box stores. You have the Smart Center, Winnipeg Southwest development with the anchors there. Smart Center, Kenaston Common. You have the Costco location there as well. The Cineplex, etc., etc. So this is an excellent visual in looking at what the difference is between the location and desirability from a retail perspective of the location of these auto dealers versus where the city's comps are. We can move forward quickly. Automotive industry is changing and evolving over time. People shop online now. They determine what car they want by doing their research online and then essentially going and test driving the car and going through the finance process if they need to do that. What this means is there's much less of a need for bricks and mortar. They don't need as many locations to sell those cars. So there's been a significant reduction overall in the number of locations of dealerships across Canada and certainly in Winnipeg as well. You see this consolidation happening. Amazon is also coming to the North American market, which obviously drives down margins and costs, and again, the need for bricks and mortar. Please ignore the last sentence in the first paragraph, which was meant to be deleted as it refers to an earlier time frame. COVID-19 also had an impact on the automotive industry. What aside from sales, which of course picked back up again going into the valuation date, but aside from sales, you had a significant impact on production and production lines, supply chain issues, provision of parts and completed cars to dealerships. There was still significant interruption as of the valuation date. So less vehicles to sell. There were lots of layoffs during that time frame, etc. Yes.
Ask one quick question.
Absolutely.
The ratio on this property is what? Land or building?
I will have to go back and calculate that for you. Typically,
Is this around 6:1?
I don't want to guess until I calculate it,
Fair
but
I thought maybe you had it off the top of your head.
no, if you'd like to take a moment, I can do that
Sure,
for you.
please, just I'd like to know.
So, and I have acres in here rather than feet, but
Yeah.
it's roughly 182,952 square feet. So it is, yes, 6.2 is essentially what we're looking at for this particular property.
Thank you.
All right. So that is background. One other piece of information to keep in mind before we get into the actual valuation, my page number 12, automobile dealership properties are special use facilities. Now, this is coming straight from appraisal theory. If we look at the article that I presented there from the Appraisal Journal, titled "The Peculiarities of Appraising Auto Dealership Facilities," it states auto dealership facilities are considered special use or special purpose properties, which means that they cannot typically be assigned other uses. The other sentence essentially says the same thing. What it means is that you don't typically get other retail, office, industrial users moving into auto dealerships and using the facility as it is. That's extremely rare. There is one instance of it, which is a bad comparable, where you have a retailer using property on Pembina Highway, but it's not an excellent comparable. That aside, you typically see typically see a life cycle where the property is a mainline dealership, full service auto dealership selling, the one brand, be it Ford, Chev, Mazda, what have you. When it becomes obsolete for that purpose, it typically can be vacant for a period of time and or move down the cycle and become used by a used auto dealership. You see that happen in some cases, but we're still talking about auto dealerships. When it becomes obsolete for that purpose, typically the property is not then reused, as there is nobody that can be found to lease them. If you go through the 6 comparables that I provide there of this cycle, you can see that typically these properties are not in demand by any other type of user, and they sit vacant. They then become redevelopment sites where the original structure, as it has no purpose on the market, is demolished and a new use is put to that particular land. So that's the cycle that we look at, and what it's stating is that auto dealerships are auto dealerships. So you're really not going to see a Michael's or any other Shoppers Drug Mart, what have you, move into these locations. Now, that is the background. I will quickly point out on my page 13, again, this is with regard to the city's argument of exclusively using retail big box as the comparables for auto dealerships. This is one of their comparables in their list that's provided, 840 St. James Street. It's a Michael's location. You can see the photo of it at the front, the frontage. You can see the adjacent tenancies. You've got Best Buy, Save On Foods, et cetera, Canadian Tire, up and down the strip. This is adjacent to Polo Park. The photo at the bottom, the aerial, if you look at where it identifies 840 St. James Street being towards the top, you can see that the vast majority of that particular tenancy is selling floor. If you walk into the Michaels, you have 80 to 90% of the floor being used as selling floor, with the remainder at the back being warehousing of the products and delivery, essentially. That's clear from the outline of the building. And having been through any number of these, I know that that is the case dominantly for this type of tenancy. And I'm sure we've all been in them as well. So that needs to be kept in mind as well. Okay, let's jump forward. My page 14. The actual valuation. So let's begin that. As I've mentioned, we have two components of the property that need to be looked at. The retail showroom and the automotive service. So we need to look at what the market identifies as proper rents for those, and then make an appropriate informed decision on what the rent for the subject property should be. So let's look at automotive on my page number 15. So we have a total area of just under 34,000 square feet for the subject property. Typically, we're looking at automotive service and repair being between, call it 60 and 70% of the auto dealership floor area, with the retail showroom being in the 30 to 40% range in terms of square footage. So keep that in mind as well. So looking at the automotive comps on page number 15, I won't run through each of these, but I will highlight some that are informative. First one, 120 King Edward. This is a void collision center on Route 90, just north of Portage Avenue, to the west of Polo Park. 15,000 square feet, 2018 lease for 5 years at $8.50 a square foot. Now, that rent would be likely to increase somewhat at renewal in that 2023 timeframe, but we don't have the new rate. Suffice it to say, it's not going to double or jump any huge amount. It will go up in a relatively standard fashion, so it'll be slightly above that. Number two, 1870 King Edward, also significant in size, just under 18,000 square feet, also on Route 90. The 2019 lease for 5 years at $10.15 a square foot. Let's jump down slightly. Obviously, those are our biggest ones. So in that way, they're the most comparable in terms of size. Jumping down, I would point you to my numbers 4, 5, and 6. This is essentially an automotive service strip mall that is located immediately adjacent to the automotive dealership strip on Regent Avenue. You have 3 tenancies there between 2,000 and 2,400 square feet. Relatively new building in 87. Leases for 5 years beginning in 2018 and 19, and our rates are between $7.94 and $12 per square foot. Again, the size of them, 2,000 to 2,400, would be significantly smaller than what the subject property service area would be, or any of these today, typically. And economies of scale do come into play. So you're going to pay more for a 2,000 square foot unit than you would for a 15,000 square foot unit. Let's continue down. I will point out the couple of instances of automotive sales. Number 13, 3680 Portage, there was a 2017 lease for 4 years at $12.50 a square foot. This is a used auto dealer. It has descended to that second rung. And it is only 7,200 square feet in size. Jumping down again, number 16, 2554 Portage, nearly 23,000 square feet. Originally built in 63, but obviously significantly renovated much more recently than that. 2015 lease for $7.50 a square foot for a 5-year term. That tenant was a client of mine. This is the former Mercedes dealership on the corner of Portage and is it Moray? I forget what this other
Moray.
street is. Moray.
I believe it's more.
Yeah, Charles, anyway, it changes, but I can't remember the name. Anyway, so there would be a more recent tenant than this. I know that our tenant, or rather this tenant, my client moved out in 2015. They used it as a used auto dealer and it significantly underperformed for them in that location. Number 17, also auto sales. This is premium used auto sales, not Auto Corp. This is valid lease from 2018 for 5 years at $6.85 a square foot. What I'll point out is that the tenant was required to do all of the renovation of the property, so the landlord did not put in any of their own money. So the $6.85 is certainly on the low end, and it would be higher than that in a typical situation, but we're looking at 27,603 square feet, and the location really couldn't be much better. For this particular property, it's located on the southeast corner of Waverly and McGilvery in southwest Winnipeg. As you see on my page 16 there, you can see shots of the inside as well. And obviously southwest Winnipeg, little higher overall incomes in that area, drawing tenants such as this. So that is the automotive side. Typically, we're looking at overall, call it low end, $7 a square foot, up to the very high end, which is $13 a square foot. Now, $13 a square foot, number 9, 123 Fort. This is a Fountain Tire location, half a block north of Portage Avenue, or rather, Broadway, and 1 block in from Main Street. There's a reason they're paying $13 a square foot. It's because they're right downtown, rents are higher, and it is an excellent location if you're a downtown worker to drop your car off and easily pick it up at the end of the day with no half-hour commute out to where it is. So that's the range. Let's move on to showroom retail. This is now the front portion of the building, call it 40% that we're looking at. And we can run through these. What I have done for a number of them is give you a photo of the tenancy and then an aerial map of where the property is actually located. And I think that will be informative for you. I won't run through each of these, but we will point out some highlights. For 180 and 200 Lawson, that's the current ones we're considering, or first one, 180, I guess. I will direct us to numbers 22 and 23 to start with. So this is 1290 Kenniston. This is a former industrial building that was purchased for redevelopment into retail, a retail location. It was completely gutted and renovated in 2015 and re-tenanted with retail tenancies. So number 22, 15,000 square feet. We have TransCanada Brewing in there. 2016 lease for $12 per square foot. Now, there is a step since that time, but I do not have the information as to what it has increased to. But it is, in that $1.50 a square foot range. Second one, 23, also the same development, 9,600 square feet. Lux Barbecue, 2016 lease at $12.50 a square foot. Again, there's a slight bump to that rate, which I don't have access to, but it would have increased mildly from there. Why am I pointing these out? Because they're immediately adjacent to the subject property. They are the next building to the south of it. So you have 180 and 200 Lawson that are new dealerships developed to the north of this. And then just to the south of it is the Mercedes dealership across the road. So this is what retail is renting for in that exact site, in those similar types of sizes as shown. So that's one. I will jump us back to the top of my chart, number 1, 1520 Regent Avenue. This is 26,000+ square feet. Leon's Furniture, 2021 lease, so very recent. $14 per square foot. This is towards the far end, the very far end of retail development before the tracks, before you go over the tracks on Regent heading to the east where the auto dealerships are located. See the photo on my page 18 and where it's located. The next one is immediately beside it, the Staples. Number 3, comp number 3 rather, 23,000+ square feet, 2020 lease, again, very recent, $10.25 a square foot. So again, towards the very end of that development, you now cross the tracks and almost immediately beside the conglomeration of auto dealerships on Regent in that area is 1487 Regent, number 4. 39,000+ square feet. This is a brick location. And as of the valuation date, it is leased for $13.55 a square foot. So those are in the exact locations essentially, or immediately adjacent to where these auto dealerships are developed. I'll point out also numbers 5 and 6, Princess Auto and Giant Tiger on West Portage, 20 and 28,000 square feet, rents of $13.50 and $11 a square foot as of the valuation date. Obviously big box stores, similar in size to auto dealership. Those are the main ones that I would direct you to. I've got a number on Lorimer there that are that same type of showroom retail. They're a little bit less ideally located in that they're set back from Kenaston, obviously, but they're in that 1350, 12, 1375 square foot range. So our overall range that we're looking at for big box retail, showroom retail that is in more similar locations to auto dealerships, including the subject, is that, call it low end of $8 a square foot up to the high end that we're seeing here for a Dollarama of $15.54 per square foot, with the comps I pointed out being probably the most informative. So that is the range. You can see my photos and aerials of the comps there for you. I leave that for you to look at. We can jump forward to my page number 24. What I have done here is provide an example of how you could look at the determining an overall rate for the property. Now, this isn't exactly what I've done, but it does give you a basis in which to determine whether what I'm putting forward makes sense for you. So automotive repair, roughly 60% of the building. I'm using 100 square foot building in my example, 60 square feet. You put $10 a square foot on the automotive repair, given the size, etc., that would give you $600. Showroom retail, 40%, 40 square feet. Put it at the upper end at $15 a square foot. Put them together, you come to an overall weighted average of $12 a square foot. Now, The subject property is brand new. It's well located in southwest Winnipeg. It has a lot of those things going for it. So in no way are we saying that it's should be at the bottom of the range or anything of that nature, but it does need to be appropriately valued based on what the market evidence is. In the last cycle, we used $13 a square foot based on the evidence at that time. That was agreed to by the board in both the realty and business appeals, as you see in the addenda. We have increased that based on the evidence that we have for the current time frame to $13.50 a square foot. So you apply that to the overall leasable area, you get our potential annual income. We then move forward to the estimated expenses, which we're not disputing. I would note here that the air conditioning is only a portion of the building in a brand new building. 19,000 square feet versus 33,000. So the final ARV, when you add these together, comes to $544,030 based on $13.50 a square foot. In the addenda, you have the income and expense, the 2023 decisions that I referred to, and then 2025 realty decisions that are based on my valuation of other automotive properties at the Birchwood Auto Mall for you to review. That is my presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Mr. Dyson, do you have questions on Mr. Smith?
I guess just a couple quick ones. I guess these questions will also hopefully carry over to the other properties. So just looking on your page 24 is your workup, and so essentially you're using the comparables for automotive and retail, and are you using essentially like a blended rate of those comparables to come to your rent?
In a sense, yes. I'm using an overall rate, but what I'm providing there is a method for the panel members to determine that, whether what I'm applying makes sense or not.
Okay. I know you pointed out a few comparables. For the most part, all these comparables aren't nearly close in age to the subject. Is that correct?
Are we looking at the retail ones or?
Even both. I guess both, yeah. Like
Well,
automotive, definitely not. And then retail, there's a couple that are close, but they're more renovated, not necessarily newly built.
well, what I will say, I guess, is that there's certainly a range, and what I would point out, I guess, is that in retail, certainly location is of absolutely critical importance as a driver of demand and rental rates in the marketplace. So if you have a property that is perfectly located, but it's built a little earlier and has been renovated, it's not going to get a lower rate than a property that is built newer in the same location, essentially.
And I think you kind of touched on it, but there's a couple leases that expired prior to the reference date, some well prior to the reference date. You can see for the automotive 10, 11, 13, 15, 16, retail 2, 5, 9, 17, 19, 20. They all expired prior to the reference date. And you even mentioned a couple that might have steps in it, some of these longer lease ones that have steps in it. Do you have the updated leases for these, and would that possibly change your valuation in terms of rental rate?
So if we could go back a step so that I know the ones that you're mentioning there, because you ran through them a little quickly. So on automotive, what were the numbers?
10, 11, 13, 15, 16. I was just looking at the ones that expired prior to the reference date.
Sure. So 1133 Sanford, number 10. Do I have the updated lease on that? No, I do not. And again, that's the challenge, is that you need to use actual lease rates that are out there in the market. So if we had the updated lease information for that, I would certainly provide it. However, I don't. My overall statement would be is that typically you will see a slight increase in the rental rate on expiry. Typically, they're not huge jumps. So if we're looking at Sanford, I'm not going to speculate what the number is, but it would increase from 933, certainly, without doubt. That's 2,700 square feet. Number 11 is the former Harley Davidson dealership on Route 90. It's now used auto, 2017 lease, 5 years, so it expired just prior to the reference date. That would also jump from the $7. I don't know what the new rate is as of that time frame, but it would increase somewhat. Number 13, 3680. I don't have the updated rental rate from that tenant left, so it is different tenancy in there now, which is impacted by other factors. I have knowledge of that, but I don't have the actual rent. Number 16, 2554 Portage. So again, this was the former Mercedes. This is a client of mine. They were in there for that 5-year period as a used auto dealer. And as I mentioned, it heavily underperformed for them and they did not renew their lease. So I don't have the lease for the new tenancy that went in there after that. Retail, which ones were you looking at?
Retail. Well, mainly, I guess, 2, 5, 9. I'm just more looking at it as a general thing. Like if it, such as 9, it expired in 2021. It's one of your lowest ones. If we had the updated lease, would this possibly change your valuation, or would it be more applicable just to remove that one and then look at that and value it from there? I guess
Well,
that's my question, just more generally.
so, and I guess that's a judgment call essentially, right? Where in no way are we saying that these rates, we're not implying that they, take number 9, that rate would be 772 as of April 1, 2023, when it expired in 2021. What we're showing is that that's what that tenant of that size in that location paid at that time frame. It's not distant to the valuation date. It's relatively recent, so it is informative. My overall comment is that yes, typically in the market, you do see a slight increase in rental rates as terms renew. But it's not going to be a huge jump. So in no way am I saying 772 should be the rate, but you need to look at the broad perspective of the market and determine, what should be applicable. Our more recent ones, some of them are higher, some of them are not. If you look at the 2860, 2020 lease, 1554, 2018 lease, 1050, but very different types of tenancies. We have 2021 lease, the very top one, at $14 per square foot. So the overall intent is to provide the broadest perspective possible. As private practitioners, we don't get every single lease being sent into us and put into our spreadsheet, unfortunately. Wish we did. But you gather all of the information that's possible and make the best professional judgment on what appropriate rates should be.
That's all my questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Seelan, any questions, sir?
Yeah, just a question, page 12, number 4. If we turn to that, I'll just flip here. Just give me a quick second.
Yeah.
Number 4 appears to have a building on it, a multi-use building, I believe, a multifamily building now. Just as note.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think I may even I'm not sure that I mentioned that it has been redeveloped, but certainly it became a development site. That's a complex one where the dealership was, well, I won't get into it, but it was not a standard transaction. It was a almost essentially a forced transaction, and as soon as they could buy the property, they did so, and then immediately moved their dealership to another location as the building was no longer functional for them.
Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lickletter, any questions?
Just one quick question. Mr. Smith, you inspected this property, I'm assuming?
I have, yes.
All right. And just to clarify, they have a fully operational service center
They do, yes.
servicing their vehicles? All
Correct.
right. Thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you for your presentation. And Mr. Chair, is it possible to take a 5-minute break?
Not a bad idea at this point. So I'll come back with the questions. I have a few from Mr. Smith, so we'll take a 5 minutes or so break and we'll be back to complete this property. Thank you very much and welcome back, everyone. I have some questions for Mr. Smith at this time, and I'd start with Mr. Smith. You've made a statement earlier on that an ideal ratio for auto dealerships is 8-to-1, correct?
8-to-1 is what they're searching for, yes.
This is a newer dealership built in 2021, I believe.
It is, yes.
And this ratio is 6.2-to-1.
It is, yes.
And so I'm going to ask a general question. Are there many dealerships in Winnipeg that are at the 8-to-1 ratio that seems to be the goal, I guess?
So
Because I haven't seen a lot, and that's why I'm asking.
right, so I'll answer that question. My lead up to it will be in relation to this property and our next property, 200. They are new developments, you're correct. 21 and 22, I think, is their date of construction. They were driven by the brands themselves to exit the location that they were currently in, which was the Birchwood Auto Mall. And they were sharing facilities, buildings with other brands. And these brands essentially said, you need to move us to the area that we want to be in, or we're withdrawing your representation of our brand and we'll go elsewhere. So the owners were driven by that, in that they had to locate this tenant elsewhere in the area they wanted, and they're limited by what was available there. So in Southwest Winnipeg, we have industrial development on Kenniston and the adjacent Lawson, etc. Right? There's limited availability of land. So what in fact happened for both 180 and 200 is that the properties were bought by the owners that you see here today, 180 and 200. There were buildings on site. They were bought to be redeveloped. Now, they can't expand that land, obviously. The land is the land. If they had their way, they would have more land on which to display their product now. So they're stuck with what they got, essentially. Now, are there many that are 8-to-1 or higher? There are some, certainly. And I would say that there are many that are not, and most of the dealers are not built in more recent time frame. So they are, again, on sites that are typically smaller and didn't evolve with the business as it changed over time, where they needed more display space, more service storage space, circulation, etc.
But you also made a statement with respect to modern day car purchasing. To buy a car now is, a lot of it doesn't happen in the dealership anymore. The statement you made is it's being done more online, and then people end up going to the dealership and things tend to be a bit more streamlined there. Not requiring necessarily the same bricks and mortar. Would that not be true then of the land ratio too at that point? Would that be a fair statement to make?
No, I would have to disagree with you on that front in that they still want to move a lot of cars.
Okay.
So they still need the storage space for those new vehicles. And then obviously on the other side of the business, they need the storage space for service as well. So it doesn't change in that regard.
Okay. Thank you. And I guess then I'm going to also ask, I see you've done a little bit different than what the department has. The department has provided large box retail type rentals. And for the most part, from what I can see, the rate that they're using per square foot is south of the averages for the areas that they are trying to give us a snapshot of. Would you agree with that?
I would agree that that is what they have done, yes.
Okay. And your position with the two different types of rentals, one for automotive service and then one for retail. You're in the same boat in terms of nothing is perfect because there is no perfect comp, correct? Okay. But I guess where I'm driving to is you've got a blended rate also, front to back. It's about a 60-40 split, a little bit
That's
approximate.
that's typically what the dealerships are. That's my
And so
overall.
then the question that I ask is, did you actually think about the actual split as in, did you have $15 a square foot on the front and $9 on the back, or how did you arrive at that determination of $13.50?
At the valuation, yes.
Yeah.
So I provided the example that I provided there because
Yeah.
what I've found in the past when because I've been doing this valuation model for a number of cycles now and get varying results on decisions, and what I've found in some of the questioning, etc., was that perhaps it wasn't clear that distinction between the two sides and what the overall impact on value of what rate you would theoretically put on the back versus theoretically put on the front, what those size differences typically are, not specific to this property, but typically I found that that didn't always come across. So what I did in this cycle was provide this example in order to help guide the panel in making their appropriate decision. So did I?
And that is appreciated.
Yes. So did I put a number on the back and the front? Oh, I put a blended rate on the overall thing,
Okay, so
taking into account the brand new nature of it, the location, et cetera, et cetera.
understood. So you didn't go through the process of saying 15 in the back, 9 in the, or sorry, 15 in the front, 9 in the back as an example, to come up with a 1350 overall. You said, in my opinion, I'm looking at 1350 blended.
I did, but not in a hard, this is my number for the back, this is my number for the front.
Fair.
Yes.
Just. The other thing I was going to point out or ask with respect to the last two comps you have on your retail side, the two that you stressed were more close to the subject, being number 22 and 23. Canada Brewing and Lux Barbecue.
Yes,
Now, as you stated, these were basically, was an industrial building to start, correct? Or some type of warehousing at some point.
it was an industrial building to start, but it was purchased with the specific intent of entirely gutting and renovating the property into a retail development.
And you've inspected those two properties, sir?
I have been through both of them, yes, both premises.
Would you agree with me that both properties are lacking very much parking? At all, in comparison to a dealership, a modern
Yes.
day dealership
Parking certainly.
is a very limited comparable.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's a limited comparable. I would agree with you that the parking is
Lot smaller.
considerably different, yes.
All right,
That's one factor.
okay. I think those are my questions for now, and I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. I do have the rebuttal document too, which will be a very quick process.
Yeah, we can have the administrative, Phoebe, if you could find that for us and put it along. Sorry, while she's doing that, I do have one further question, or
Certainly.
just the apartment's at $14.53 a square foot base rent. And you're using $13.50 a square foot base rent. So
Correct.
basically, you're $1.03 apart in terms of the rent for business assessment in this instance. You agree with the costs based on the air conditioning charges being modified somewhat.
I do.
Thank you.
So it should be in both the SharePoint and your folder there, and I sent it by email to the assessor there. You can see it shortly. But make sure.
I have it. Does everyone else have the rebuttal evidence that's been shared at this point?
I'm not sure that I have it. What is it called again? I'm sorry.
For this one, because it wasn't intended for all items, it should be just below item 8, the orders there.
Okay, let me try and reload here. Sorry. Okay.
We'll start with 2025 and then 0402 for April 2nd.
Mr. Dykstra, do you have your copy, sir?
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you. Ms. Linkletter, do you have your copy yet?
That's right, you're muted.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
I apologize. I don't have it.
Try refreshing your SharePoint maybe.
I apologize. I have a few times. Do you have Phoebe, do you have my email?
I can put that to you by email, yes.
Sure. Sorry for any inconvenience.
Oh, no,
Thanks.
technical issues happen from time to time. It's all part of the film. This is something we've seen before.
Yes, yeah, it's identical.
I sent that by email, so you should receive it shortly.
Thanks. Perfect, thanks.
Excellent. Mr. Smith? Please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this will be quick. What my rebuttal evidence is essentially detailing for the panel what the city's comparables are and providing an aerial map of their location. So point of this is to match up with my discussion of location with regard to retail comps and point out the difference between the city's reliance on these comps on power center nodes versus the comparables that I have provided for that showroom retail portion. So I'll run through this very quickly. The city has divided it up into areas. The first area is numbers 1 through 13. That is the Regent and Lagimodiere Boulevard centered area. So if you look at the comps as shown there, they're all national and international tenancies. You've got Sobeys, Best Buy, Ashley, Sport Chek, Pet Michaels, Pet Lion, Save on Foods, et cetera, et cetera. There's a movie theater in there, Cineplex. But look at where they are. So you have the Kildonan Place Shopping Center with 3 of the tenancies in that shopping center, obviously very different in terms of draw and rental rates than where the subject would be. If you look at the area to the south of Regent there, you are looking at the what's referred to as Crossroads Station Shopping Center, which is anchored by Walmart, Home Depot, and Great Canadian Superstore, as well as many, many other small boxes. So if you look at the rents that those tenants are willing to pay in that location, they will not be the same rents that one would pay in a non-anchored, non-retail agglomeration location down the street, such as the ones further down Regent where they're located. That is the difference. That one's particularly informative, as are some of the others. I won't go through each of them. The next page, my number 2, is the one centered in the Polo Park area. You can see that they're either on Polo Park or across the street, and you see what the tenancies are. Again, these are anchored by Polo Park essentially, as well as you can see the anchors for the individual area too. There are 1 or 2 exceptions. I think I may even have 1 or 2 of these as ones that I use as well. Perhaps 15 is in common. Moving on, page 3, Southwest Winnipeg, or at least the first portion, you're looking at Grant Park Shopping Center and the Pembina Crossing Shopping Center for the most part, with a few outliers as well. Our tenancies are Save on Foods, Petland, Shoppers Drug Mart, Dollarama, Dollar Tree, etc. Again, very different than the locations for the subject, etc. Number 4, again, Keniston and McGilvery Power Center node with the developments immediately surrounding that. We all know what they are and what the anchors are. You can see that the vast majority of the tenants are on those sites. They're there for a reason, in that they drive more business in those locations and they'll pay more rent. The other location being that adjacent development immediately beside IKEA. We all know the demand for IKEA in seasons of tuxedo. It draws more business for these tenants, therefore they are willing to pay greater rent. So you can see all of the tenancies as outlined there, national and international branding. Moving forward, I think some of our properties today are we McPhillips today? Waverly, pardon me. McPhillips Leela Power Center node. So you're looking at, you can see the location there, Garden City Shopping Center, Garden City Square. With some outliers again, and then final page, page number 6. This is the former Unicity development, which is again anchored by, I think it's Walmart in that location. And you can see the tenancies that are located there. These are all, by and large, they are all on these big box power center developments that are, as I said, anchored and draw greater rents than you would find in locations where the automobile dealerships are. You can see the type of tenancies that they are, and just the distinct difference between those retail comps versus the retail comps that I've provided in my evidence. That is it as far as the rebuttal evidence goes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions at this point, Mr. Deitchen?
I guess just one question. I guess mainly looking at page 5, because that's kind of most relevant to the subject here. So the subject would be essentially in between the cluster of 42 to 45 and then 46 to 47, kind of in between them. Wouldn't you agree that that's in the area of these retail properties within a few-minute drive?
Well, yes. So if you look at it from a very basic physical geography, is it within the same area? Sure it is. But you drive down Kenaston, as we all have. If you head south from IKEA there, on the west side, you have the cement plant and some development to the south of that, which is flex space office by Terracon on the west side there, set back considerably from the roadway. It is kind of its own thing. Behind that, you have Fort White area. Then you have again vacant land up to where the rail tracks are. Cross over the rail tracks, and then you have the full retail developments that these are. On the east side, you have industrial developments all down Kenaston and Lowson and the other roadway that's back there. There's a metal or metal collection site, kind of a junkyard. Not that that's what the whole area is, but it's all industrial, it's zoned industrial, very distinctly different than what these two areas are. So physically, yes, otherwise they're not even close.
So you would agree, though, in proximity, they are close?
I would say that it is close in proximity, but I would also say, you know, my house is close to $2 million houses as well, and it's not worth $2 million.
Wow, that's not really a fair comparison, but all right, that's all my questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Ms. Linkletter, any questions, please?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Seelan, questions, sir?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
And I do not believe I have any further questions, so thank you very much for that presentation. And I'm assuming that you're going to be able to use that going forward for the balance of the docket today, sir?
That is the intent, yes, thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much. So we move on to next item being 200 Lowson. Mr. Deitchen, would you like to walk us through your presentation for 200 Lowson, sir?
Okay, so this one's similar to the previous one. This is file number 24-4858. Roll years 2025. Address is 200 Lowson Crescent. Business assessment ID is 55446. You can see on page 1, the premise is 41,000 square feet at a base ARV per square foot of 1422. With the occupancy costs, it brings the ARV to 693,720. You can see again the property description on page 1. It is a dealership built in 2020. Page 2 is just an overhead view of the subject. along with page 3 is another overview. Page 4 is just the map view of the subject. Page 5 is the border revision order. You can see that it was reduced from 9,155,000 to 7,577,000. And again, on page 6 is the board conclusion. So it was based on the NOI presented by the Assessment and Taxation Department with a cap rate of 7.25%. Again, the comparables on pages 8 and forward, mainly looking again at page 9, the comparables 42 to 60 on Sterling Line, Keniston, McGilvery and such. You can see that the average is about 2151 with a weighted average of 2091 and a median of 2031. And pages 12 forward is just the applicant's information from the realty. I'm not going to speak to it too much, but you can see again, they applied 1350. We're at 1422, so we're very close in terms of rent. And then pages 15 forward are just the mailers, and that is my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions, Mr. Smith?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Seelan, questions at this point?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Linkletter. Questions?
Just one quick question. Mr. Dychin, your brief, is it model driven?
That's correct.
Okay, and just your briefs 3 through 8 are also going to be model driven?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And to that, I guess, because it's model driven, you or anyone else has not really driven a value for the property in segments. It's just an overall value, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
So it's a blended number.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Well, I'm assuming based on the fact that Mr. Smith has brought up the fact that we have a rear area which is service related, and then the front area being the showroom and offices,
Mhm.
and usually about a 60-40 split. You'd agree with that, correct?
I personally am not aware of that.
But you'd agree that the back portion is service area, front portion is office retail, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah, there's definitely a split. I just don't know the 60-40. I've never heard of that, and I
And
can't.
that's fair. I'm not going
Yeah.
to.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, there's definitely the two portions for sure.
And I get that at the end of the day, the model has, in essence, blended those to what you've arrived at for this, correct?
I would believe so. I think it just looks at it as one whole economic unit. I can't really speak to it beyond that. Yeah.
Those are my questions. Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, please, let's have your presentation.
Yes, thank you. If I may, I'm just gonna pick up on that train of thought that regard to that questioning. So I represent quite a number of automobile dealerships and have had many realty hearings and BA hearings so far this cycle. And in each of those, the city has presented their model as being based exclusively on big box retail. So not a blend of the two different components that the property actually is, but based exclusively on big box retail. Now, I realize that I'm referring to other hearings that have taken place, but I know that certainly some of the panel members have been present there for some of those, and we're talking about quite a few. So I don't believe that the city model actually views the property as having two components. I think it strictly bases it upon the retail the retail stream and essentially the comps that it provides. Now, I realize I'm speaking for the city here, but that has been my experience in, as I said, innumerable hearings that I've been at in this cycle. Hopefully that is informative on that front. Anyway, let's skip forward. So we're now dealing with the adjacent property. This is 200 Lawson. It is the Lexus dealership, as with the prior property at 180. The brand itself, Lexus, demanded that the ownership move their property out of a shared location into location in southwest Winnipeg. So they had to acquire property that was available and redevelop it for their purposes. So that is what's happened. It was built in 2020, sits on 3.9 acres, and we have a total leasable area of 41,000 square feet. Now, with regard to land plan area ratio, we're looking at 4.5 for this particular site. What I will point out on my page number 3, we're sitting on an M2 zoning. Not all of the retail comparables that the city uses, and potentially some of mine, would necessarily be permitted within the zoning that this particular site has. So also something to keep in mind. It was intended as manufacturing, industrial, and remains zoned as such. The subject fits within those guidelines. Further information on my page 3 again, 2025 realty was reduced, as the city has mentioned. That was a cap rate cut. Both the city and ourselves as the appellants have appealed that to the municipal board. 2023, the realty decision was based entirely, as well as the business appeal or assessment rather, the reductions were based entirely on my valuation, which from a rental perspective was again $13 per square foot. We have looked at the new evidence that we've included for this cycle, and we've increased that rental rate to $13.50 per square foot. That is the background. You can see the photos beginning on page 4. I have taken these myself, and you can see the showroom, supportive office, moving into some of the service area, staff area, some parts area, service again, and then service on the final page. The site itself is shown on page number 9, and the location is identical to the last one. I won't cover the same ground that I did for the first one, obviously, nor do I need to go through my comparables again. They remain exactly the same as they were for my realty presentation. And we have utilized the overall rate of $13.50 a square foot, applied to 41,000 square feet, gives us our potential annual income as shown on my page 24, 553,500, to which we have the estimated expenses. What I will point out here, which is the reason I pointed it out for the first property, brand new building, built at the same time by the same builder for the same client, and yet we have the city applying air conditioning to the entire building here. I believe this is based on seeing units on the roof that are intended for heat, not air conditioning. I don't have the figure to break that down, but what I will point out is that that's inaccurate. I'm not correcting it today. We'll go with it for now, but it should be adjusted based on the service area not being air conditioned, as they are not air conditioned. Certainly, as you can see from the other one. So we will work on getting that corrected. The final ARV, adding the annual rental income to the expenses, comes to a rounded figure of $664,200. The income and expense are included, the decisions from the last cycle, as well as the supportive decisions from the 2025 realty. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Questions, Mr. Dyson, please.
No new questions, thanks.
Thank you very much. Ms. Linkletter, any questions?
Just one question. Mr. Smith, you inspected this property, I'm assuming?
I did. I've inspected all of the properties today.
Thank you. That was my next question. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Seelan, questions, sir?
My questions have been asked and answered. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Smith, as you pointed out, there is a problem with the air conditioning charge. So for something that might be cleaned up between yourself and the department, that would be excellent to get that.
It would.
Thank you very much. Those are my thoughts and questions. So the rebuttal, as we had seen just in the previous, will apply to this. And is there any summation on either part, gentlemen?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Excellent. We will move on to item number 3 then. Just give me a moment to switch over. Introduction, item number 3 is A-1700 Waverly Street. Can we have your presentation on that, please?
So this one is file number 24-4774, release 2025. Address is A-1700 Waverly Street. Business assessment ID is 34317. You can see on page 1, it is one premise at 36,740 square feet at a base ARV per square foot of 1329 a square foot. With the occupancy costs, the ARV comes to 579,120. Again, it is a dealership built in 1999. Getting on to page 2, you can see the overhead map view of the property on the corner of looks like Waverly and Scurfield. Page 3 is just an exterior view of the property. Page 4 again is another overhead view. Page 5 is another exterior, I guess the side of the building. Page 6 again is the board of a revision order for the 2025 realty. You can see it was reduced from 7,184,000 to looks like 6,568,000, so a little blurry, but on page 7 again you can see the board's conclusion. Again, it was based on the NOI presented by the assessment and taxation department with a cap rate of 7%. So in turn they were agreeing with our rents there. Again, you can see the VCD comparables on pages 8 and forward. Again, we'll be looking at just a similar location. So again, looking at comps 27 to 41 along with 42 to 60. You can see that they average around 2151 for comps 42 to 60 with a weighted average of 2091 and a median of 2031. Again, page 12 is the board municipal board order regarding the retail properties and the comparison to VCDs. Pages 13 forward again is the applicant's evidence from the realty appeal. Again, you can see they applied 1250. We're at 1329. Again, very close in rental rates. Pages 17 forward again is the mailers, and that is my evidence. Thank you.
Questions, Mr. Smith?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Seelan, questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linkletter, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And Mr. Dyson, just a quick question. Your base rent at 1329, that's quite a bit different than the rents that you're showing on the tables for the big box retailers, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Thank you very much. Those are my thoughts. Mr. Smith, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So subject property is Unit A at 1700 Waverly. This is the Waverly Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in the Waverly Auto Mall. I will direct you to my page number 3. Again, properties in this location are zoned for industrial use. M2 manufacturing general, so not necessarily all of the retail uses that or tenancies and uses that the city has included in their evidence, and perhaps some of mine would be transferable in terms of being able to operate within this zoning on this site. The subject does fit within those requirements, obviously. So again, page number 3. 2025 realty assessment was appealed and reduced. That has been appealed to the municipal board by ourselves as the appellant as well as the city. 2023 realty and business assessment, both were reduced as shown on page number 3. Both decisions were based on appellant's evidence, which was a net rental rate of $12.50 a square foot. Now, I am included on the decisions for those, but I was participating along with another agent, Mr. Sid Story. You can see that he prepared the actual valuation, as it is not my format, and my valuation would have been slightly different than that, but that feeds into why our rental rate is what it is in comparison to the last cycle. That's the background. Built in 1999, 4.5 acres, total of 36,740 square feet. I was in this property quite recently, and the I guess how I would term it is the showroom retail and associated office is very choppy and divided up, and certainly not how you would build it today. So it's a bit dated, not just in terms of finish, but in terms of the actual layout, how it's sited on the site, and the internal demising. There's a lot of angles and hallways that would be unnecessary, etc., if designed better. Anyway, it's a bit of a maze in that section. That's my only comment on that. The photos begin on page 4. You can see the exteriors. Then we move into the showroom. You can see the difference between the older one and some of the newer ones. Then we get into, again, admin area, page number 6 and 7, and onwards into the service bays and repair areas of the property on 8, 9, 10, and 11. Well, it's quite a few. The site itself is shown on page number 12, so you can see it outlined in red in our aerial photo on the corner of Waverly, and the location in Southwest Winnipeg shown on page number 13. All of my comments regarding special use nature of automobile dealerships, the industry itself, the cycle of auto dealerships, the split of how to evaluate these properties between retail, showroom, automotive, service, repair remain the same. So we won't cover that ground again. My comparable rents remain the same as well. We're now in a slightly different location, but I won't run through the rents again either. I think we probably covered that adequately. Happy to answer any specific questions that you may have on those. I think I've given my overall perspective with regard to the rental environment for appropriate big box retail as well as automotive service in relation to auto dealerships. And we can jump forward to my actual valuation beginning on page number 27. So as I'd mentioned, yes, the rent that was applied in the last cycle was $12.50. We would have been slightly different than that had I been involved in the initial valuation, tracking with all of my other valuations for properties in that cycle. So for the current cycle, looking at the evidence that we have, looking at the property, age, location, etc., we have applied an overall rental rate of $12.50 per square foot to the subject property. This gives us our potential annual income. We are not disputing the estimated expenses. So adding the two together, our rounded ARV as shown on page 29 is $550,120. The income and expense is in the addenda, along with the last cycle's decisions and supportive decisions from the current cycle as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Questions, Mr. Dyson?
No new questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seelan. Questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lickletter. Any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And I have no further questions, so your rebuttal would be brought forward still for this. And do you have any final thoughts on this, sir?
I do not, thank you.
Mr. Dyson?
No, thank you.
Excellent. We'll move on. Item number 4, immediately adjacent, it appears, to the last property. So this is B-1700 Waverly Street. Mr. Dyson, can we have your presentation on this property, sir?
Yeah, this is file number 24-4994. Earlier is 2025. This is address B-1700 Waverly Street. Business assessment ID is 919. The premise is 13,955 square feet at a base ARV per square foot of 1465. With the occupancy costs, it brings the ARV to 240,240. Again, this is a vehicle dealership built in 2000. Page 2 just shows the overhead map view of the property. So I believe it's right next to the one we just looked at. Page 3 is the exterior shots of the subject. Page 4 again is the order revision order. So you can see the value is reduced from $3,293,000 to $2,752,000. Page 5 shows the board's conclusions, again, based on the NOI presented by the Assessment and Taxation Department with a cap rate of 7%. Then again, pages 6 forward, again, are the comparables. Mainly looking at 27 to 60, the 42 to 60 range of comparables, again, average about $21.51 with a median of 20.31. Again, looking at
Can I interrupt you for a moment, Mr. Dyson?
Yes.
Could I get you to, and I believe you just read it incorrectly,
Oh.
file number on this one?
Oh.
We'd like you to just quickly go back, and I just
Yeah.
want to confirm that
20
it is 24-4995.
Okay, yeah, 4995. Yep.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's all good. I don't even know what I said.
Apparently you said 94 and I missed it.
Oh,
but,
sorry. Yeah.
Secretary did not.
Just
So
make sure
my
that-
apologies, continue on, sir.
Well, that's all good. I think it was just on page 11. Again, is the applicant's information from the realty, just to show. They were at 1250. We're at 1465. So we're relatively close in rental rates. Again, pages 15 forward are the mailers, and that is my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, questions?
I have no new questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Seelan, any questions, sir?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linkletter, questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, and I don't have any questions either, so. Mr. Smith, may we have your presentation, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we are dealing with the adjacent property to the last one. This is Unit B, 1700 Waverly Street. It's the Acura location in the Waverly Auto Mall there on the east side of Waverly. Jumping into my report again, page number 3, see the 2025 ARV. 2025 realty was reduced and appealed to the municipal board by both parties. The 2023 business assessment is shown for you there. It was reduced based on the appellant's evidence, which was based on the same $12.50 per square foot rental rate. The zoning again, M2, built in 2000, so this isn't a new development. It is, you'll see photos of it. I'm not saying it's a bad building by any stretch, but it is of its time frame as well. So the property is what it is. Sitting on 1.7 acres, we have a total of just under 14,000 square feet in a leasable area. Photos begin on page 4. Couple of exteriors on pages 4 and 5. You can see the service center area at the back. Interiors of the front showroom open to the deck at the top. You can see the older tile, etc., etc. Drop T-bar area in customer area. Moving into the admin areas. And then we get into service on page number 9. The site is shown on page 10. Obviously, the land to plan area ratio, which I haven't included, but can work out for you if you wish, is relatively small. I can work that out if needed. Location is the same as the prior properties. We'll skip the summary of what's already been presented with regard to the discussion and the rental comps used. Everything remains the same. And if you skip forward to my page 25, we have applied an overall rate of $12.50 a square foot to the subject property for the market rental rate. We're not disputing the expenses. And when we add the two of these together, we come to a final rounded ARV of $210,250. The addenda materials include the business assessment appeal from the last cycle based on our valuation at $12.50 as shown in the evidence. We don't really, again, my value would have been slightly different than that, and that has been taken into account in what I'm applying to the subject for the current time frame. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Mr. Lynch, questions, sir?
No new questions, thanks.
Thank you. And Mr. Sealand, questions?
Yes, what's the layout like in this dealership?
The layout for this one, so a little more straightforward than the last one, just on a smaller scale as it's just under 14,000 square feet. So if you walk in the front showroom, it's basically a big box or a big open plan area. If you look at my page 6, you can see the open to the deck frontal area. The admin areas are set at the back of that showroom area and above on the mezzanine area. As you can see, there's kind of a central stairway, and then there is also further admin areas on the side with parts and service kind of extending back on one side and the full service and repair separated off and at the back, as you can see.
Would 13,955 if 955 square feet be small for a dealership?
It would certainly be small in terms of what gets built today, yes, it would be on the smaller side.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, and I don't believe I have any further questions, so thank you again for your presentation. We will bring forward the rebuttal, and do you have any final submissions?
I do not, thank you.
Mr. Dyson?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. We can now move on to item number 5. Will we jump over? This is 680-1717 Waverly Street. Mr. Dyson, can we have your presentation, please?
Yep. So this one is file number 244994, roller 2025. Address is 680-1717 Waverly Street. Business assessment ID is 920. You can see this is one premise, 43,621 square feet at a base ARV per square foot of $13.90. With occupancy costs, it brings the ARV to 724,080. You can see in the property description that it is a car dealership built in 2013 to 2019 with the effective year built of 2015. On page 2 is an overhead view of the property with a exterior of the subject. Along with page 3 is just the looks like the back of the subject property. Page 4 again is the board revision order from the 2025 realty. So you can see it was reduced from $9,363,000 to $8,787,000. And on page 5 is the board's conclusion. So again, it was based on the NOI presented by the Assessment Taxation Department with a increased cap rate to 6.5%. Again, my VCD or our VCD comparables on pages 6 forward, again, mainly looking at 27 to 60, with 42 to 60 having a range of 2151, median of 2031. Yeah, on pages 11 to 14 is just the applicant's information from the Board Revision Realty. You can see again they applied 1250. We're at 1390. Once again, we're relatively close in rental rates. Pages 15 forward is the income and expense mailer, and that is my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions, Mr. Blair?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Linkletter, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sealer, any questions, sir?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I don't believe I have any questions either. So, Mr. Smith, can we have your presentation at this point, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're now dealing with unit 680, 1717 Waverly Street. This is the Toyota dealership in the Waverly Auto Mall located on the west side of Waverly in this instance. It was built and added on to 2013, 2019. And we're looking at an overall leasable area of 43,621 square feet. Now, this is again M2 zoning, which I've already pointed out. All of these properties in the Waverly Mall will be as such. And we can jump forward into the photos beginning on page number 4. I will point out the 2025 realty decision has been appealed to the municipal board again by both parties. Photos begin on page 4. A couple of the exterior, you can see drive-in service on the side. the rear of the property inside on page number 5. And then we get into showroom on page number 6. You can see stairs to the mezzanine office area, as well as some of the finance office areas, lounge for customers. Further lounge, and then we get into service at the bottom of page number 8, clearly distinct from the front. And onto page 9, wash bay at the bottom, etc. The aerial, or rather site description, is shown on page number 10. You can see the location of the property, where it is on that Waverly location. Location on page number 11. I won't run through again our arguments or our comparables. Our rental rate for the subject property is $12.50 a square foot. Based on the evidence we've presented, this gives you your potential annual income of $545,263. Moving forward to the estimated expenses on page 26. Again, I will point out the air conditioning is incorrect. I do not have the specific area for the air conditioning, so we were unable to correct that in advance of this, time being what it is. But that should be corrected going forward. They don't cool the service area, obviously, so it's not the full 43,000. Be that as it may, we're not going to dispute it for this purpose. So our overall annual rental value rounded, when we add these together, comes to $663,030. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Mr. Knight, any questions at this time?
No new questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seelan, questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Linkletter, any questions?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and I do not believe I have any further questions. Your rebuttal will be brought forward for this, and any final thoughts on this, Mr. Smith?
No, thank you.
Mr. Dykstra?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. And that concludes that item. We will move on to item number 6, I believe. And that is also immediately adjacent. Being 700-1717 Waverly Street. Mr. Dykstra, can we have your presentation on this, please, sir?
Yeah, so this one's file number 24-5108. Roll years 2025. Address is 700-1717 Waverly Street. Business assessment ID is 35149. You can see it is a single premise at 26,477 square feet. With a base ARV of 1443, with the occupancy costs. Brings the total ARV to 448,800. Is a vehicle dealership, car dealership, built in 2005 to 2019. You can see that the gross floor area is at 52,883, I think is what it says. So this one actually works in tandem with our next property. That's a vehicle. It's the service garage portion of it, so it's split up into 2 buildings, but essentially they work in tandem as one economic unit. But I'll speak to that more on the next property. On page 2, you can see that so the left building is the car dealership, and then the one on the right is the service portion for this dealership. Continue on to page 3 is just the exterior photos of the subject property. Page 4 is actually the service portion that we'll look at on the next property. Page 5 is the order revision order for the 2025 realty. So this is for the whole property, both buildings combined. The value was actually confirmed at $11,394,000. You can see on page 6, the board's conclusions that the assessment to be confirmed based on the evidence provided by the Assessment and Taxation Department. Again, on page 7 and forward are the VCD comparables, mainly looking at 27 to 60 with the main focus being on 42 to 60, I would say. And those range are average about 2151 a square foot with a median of 2031. Again, just 12 and forward are the applicant's information from the realty appeal. And you'd see they applied 1250 a square foot for the VCD, and we're at 1443, so relatively close again. Page 16 forward is the income and expense mailer for the property, and that is my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, questions?
I guess just one question. So your page number 3 there, that is the actual structure and business that we're dealing with the assessment for today, right? Not the one on the following page number 4.
Yeah, page 3 is the one we're dealing with right now. The other one is the next property, I believe.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions, Ms. Linklater?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Steele, questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Very much. And I do not believe I have any further questions. So, Mr. Smith, can you have your presentation?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, bear with me for just a moment. Okay. All right. So unit 17, or rather 700 at 1717 Waverly in the Waverly Auto Park there. We are looking at the Nissan dealership in this location. The front photo gives you a frontage of the actual dealership itself. As the city mentioned, there is a separate structure for realty that is on the same realty assessment. For business purposes, it is separate. They were built at separate times. They're very distinct. They operate separately. But the one is not split off onto a separate realty assessment. Looking at my page number 3, background again, you have the 2025 ARV zoned M2. I've made my comments clear about that. Property was built in 2 stages, 2005 through 2019. The dealership was built in 2005 with some later renovations. The other structure is well, we'll get to that when we get to it. Anyway, both buildings sit on 4.6 acres, as you can see, shared with 800 1717 Waverly. And we have a total leasable area for the dealership of 26,477 square feet. The 2025 realty was confirmed and appealed by both parties to the municipal board. And the 2023 decisions were also appealed to the municipal board. The photos begin on page 4. You can see the frontage and the exterior of the back. We get into the showroom area at the front, a reception area for their EVs, etc. Bottom of page 5. Further showroom at the top, and then we get into service on the bottom of page number 6 on into page number 7, as well as some admin area. Moving on to page number 8. So you can see the 2 distinct buildings here. The one we're dealing with is the westernmost one on the left-hand side of the photo. That is the Nissan dealership. And the collision repair center is the building located to the right of that. And as you can see, they share one site, so again, we could work it out, but their land to plan area ratio is certainly on the small side for a dealership in the city. Location, page 9, the rest of our information we've covered many times here. I won't review that in order to save us time. The property again built a little earlier, 2005. You can see the photos of it. We have used the overall rental rate of $12.50 per square foot for the subject property. What I will point out is the model. The model is that the city uses is based on mass appraisal. That's it needs to be obviously, and so it makes very minute adjustments, and you get these up and down changes in what the rental rate would be based on a couple years this way versus a couple years that way, some size differences, et cetera, all the things that go into it. In the real world, yes, there are differences, but they are not as fine as those adjustments are, and we don't really see that there would be any different rental rate applied to the properties that we're applying the same rent to here, in case that becomes a question in your deliberations. So $12.50 has been applied. We include the same estimated expenses, and our final combined total all ARV rounded comes to $397,670. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Deitch, any questions, sir?
No new questions, thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Lindblad, any questions, please?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Seeler, questions?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I guess I'm gonna ask one question just because I'm kind of curious. With respect to, this is this whole area on Waverly, all these auto dealers that were built in and around that 2005-ish timeframe, correct?
Correct.
Would that be considered the modern times of car dealerships and basically? Like the modern designs, et cetera, like more or less, or at least the beginnings of it. How's that for a thought?
Well, we could say the beginnings of it, but I think I wouldn't overall agree. If you look at the new ones that have gone up, they will be different and different sizes, different layouts, different amenities than what we're talking about in this time frame.
Okay. So then come back to the ideal ratio of 8-to-1, and I don't see that on any of the ones we've seen so far in this area, and I wonder why that is, because if in fact dealerships are looking for that magic 8-to-1, why none of these, and this is purpose built, this isn't something that was there for 40 years, this popped up out of the prairies, and so none of them were 8.8 to 1. I'm just kind of curious what your comment is on that.
Sure. So I haven't individually gone through each of the properties on both sides of the Waverly Auto Mall to determine that land to plan area ratio. And I'll take you at your word
Yeah,
for
so
that.
so far I'm seeing 6, and I think this one's 5. So
Yes.
and I appreciate that it's a little bit off topic, but you've made a point of saying that 8-to-1 is something ideal. But yet it appears that most modern dealerships, even built newly in 20-25 years, don't seem to get there.
Right. So there's a number of things that go into that. Yes, this was purpose built back in the time when it was developed. That being said, they need to work with work with what's available, right? So this was the site that made sense to develop the auto mall in, essentially, given the location of it. The land could be made available, it was purchased. Now you need to provide, you know, the roadways, the servicing, entry, exit, all of those things, which take up the amount of space they do. And then, the developers divide it up into the lots. I unfortunately today, you'll catch me out, I don't have the background on who set the lots up necessarily, whether that was acquired from the city at that time and broken out in that fashion, or whether that was done as a conglomerate. I suspect it was probably from the city, but don't quote me on that. So the land is the land that it is. You can't add on to that, and they broke it up into the lots that you see here. It doesn't change the fact that the 8-to-1 ratio is what is generally needed for auto dealers today. Ideally, what you will see is that they have to use other locations to store vehicles. We've all seen this. So what that means is they don't have enough space in these locations. If they could have that space, then they'd probably be fine, but it wasn't available. And again, I would not agree that the 2005, what they built at that time, is the same as what the modern dealerships are and what they're looking for. So they're always constrained by the marketplace and what's available and what they can purchase, right? Whether it's ideal or not.
Fair enough. I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we will bring forward your rebuttal again.
Thank you.
And is there any summation at this point?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Deitch, any questions or sorry, any summation at this point, sir?
No, thanks.
Thank you very much. This concludes item number 6.
Mr. Chair, can we take 5 minutes?
Yes, we can, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Mention, we are now moving on to item number 7, being 800-1717 Waverly Street. Would you like to give us your presentation on this, sir?
Yep. This one is file number 24-5109. And this is roll year 2025. The address is 800-1717 Waverly Street. The business assessment ID is 34158. This is one premise, 1717 Waverly. The size is 26,356 square feet. At a base area of 1479 a square foot. With the occupancy cost, it brings the total ARV to 460,980. Again, this is the service portion of the property that we just looked at. So they're on the same roll number. They work as one economic unit. So we are valuing it the same way, or we're defending it the same way using the retail comps that I'll speak about later. Again, you can see on page 2, it's the rightmost building. Again, it's the same pictures. On page 4, you can see the front of it. It's the Crown Auto Body and Glass. Again, page 5 is the realty order. So this was for the whole property, both buildings. It was defended as one economic unit. We used the same comparables, and the assessment was confirmed at 11,394,000. Again, it was on page 6. The board's conclusion was that it was confirmed based on the evidence provided by the Assessment Taxation Department. Again, the evidence that we provided and the comparables that we provided were the VCD comparables. again, look at pages 8 and 9 are the comparables 27 to 60. I guess mainly looking at 42 to 60 again. The average about 2151 with a median of 2031. Continuing on again to the applicant's information. You can see that they actually broke it down into VCD and BSG, but again, we are looking at this as one economic unit. They work in tandem. I don't think it would be any different if these buildings were pushed together as one building. And then the last pages 16 and 18 are the income and expense mailers. And that is my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do have questions this time. So you, the city is treating rather the two individual business assessments as a single economic unit. Is that what I was getting?
Yeah, we're considering it one economic unit, and that's how we defended it at the realty as well.
And so looking at the two properties here, so we just covered 17 Waverly, the business name there, Crown Nissan. It's a full complete auto dealer. Business name here for 800 is Crown Auto Body and Glass South. The ownership for each of them is different. And I'm just wondering how that is one economic unit.
Because I believe that they both they're all both on one roll number. They both work in tandem, I would say. And like I said, if they were pushed together and connected, it would be the same thing, I would say.
So the city is aware that the unit 700, which we just dealt with, is a complete auto dealer and has a full service and repair section of the building.
I don't know how much service and repair they have in there, but
Okay, but you did see my presentation and the photos of the service and repair in it. It's not undersized. In fact, I think this is the newer of the two buildings.
I'm not too sure. Like you said, I don't know, is it 60 to 40 or was it 60% service on the previous?
So looking at unit number 800 here, then it is being assessed as a complete auto dealer for business by the looks of it here. Is it a complete auto dealer?
We're considering it all one economic unit.
Yes,
it's not.
But it is a separate business assessment.
Right.
Yes, you did that for realty. I understand that, but is this standalone building and business assessment, is it a complete auto dealer?
No, it's not.
Okay.
And the value that it's being pulled from is actually being pulled from a vehicle service garage, but we're considering it as one economic unit.
Okay, looking, and again, I think this is informative and I don't want to go on and on about this, but looking at unit 700, the base ARV rental value was $14.43 for a complete auto dealer, newer, built right beside it. The base ARV rental rate here is higher at $14.79 per square foot, just for the collision and glass center. I'm just wondering how that comes about.
I can't speculate that, and I don't really want to compare assessments on properties.
And the comparables that are used are all of the same 80 big box retail comps, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And that is what where the base ARV is derived?
The base ARV was derived by the model.
Okay, those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sealer, any questions at this time?
Yes, let's just go back to the base ARV. If we're considering this all one economic unit, why would the base ARV for this property be different than the previous property?
Well, they're two separate buildings. Like they're two separate buildings. Like I said, again, I can't really say why one is different than the other necessarily. There's slightly different sizes and such, but I can't really compare one to another.
Okay, that's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Linkletter, do you have questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Deitchen, I think the point that Mr. Smith and Mr. Seelan are trying to get to,
Mhm.
and I appreciate that you're saying, well, this is what the model gave as evaluation for the base rents on both the one that we're currently looking on and the one previously that we just looked at.
Mhm.
Previous one is the dealership with a showroom, offices, and then now we have in essence, a body shop with minimal offices, no showroom. And yet, and virtually the same area in terms of building size, and yet the base rents are greater on this side than they are on the other side. Does that strike you as being unusual, sir?
No, I don't think that's unusual. I mean, it's possible that the VCD then is on the low end. I can't really speak to it too much more than that.
Okay. Those are my questions. I appreciate the thoughts. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to, I guess, speak a little bit to some of what we were talking about here, the only reason the two entities, the two structures are on the same realty assessment is because of the legal lots that the property falls on. They're not on separate lots, therefore they're on one realty assessment. It hasn't been demised off, although probably from an assessment point of view, it certainly should be, but because of the again, the legal entity that exists, that is how they're situated. Now, they're not one economic unit, and you can see that from both the names of the ownership and the operating names. The one is a full auto dealership, that's unit 700. And just to be clear, it has a full service and repair section of it at the back. It's a full auto dealership. It doesn't just have sales. It has the full line, everything. It's not a reduced area. It's a full auto dealership. This property that we're dealing with here is strictly the auto body and glass, the collision repair essentially. So it is a separate entity and only deals with that. So they are distinct from each other. Very clearly, this has no relation to retail big box and wouldn't be viewed that way on the market. So let's get into my brief here. You can see the photo of the property at the front. My page number 3 gives you the ARV property type. Well, auto dealership, it's not, but that is what it was branded by the city. Sitting on the same 4.6 acres as shared with unit 700 and our leasable area 26,356. The photos begin on page 4 and the full extent of the office area is essentially the top of page 5 there. So I stood in the back corner of that office area and took a picture towards the front corner. So there is no more office than that. Yes, they have tiled it and made it nice for the clients that come in, but that's the sole extent of it. The vast majority of the building is the collision repair center. So bottom of page 5 and onwards, you can see what the remaining part of the building looks like. So that is that. The rest of our information remains the same. I have not included or not intentionally included. I am only relying on the automotive comps on page number 13. We're not looking at the showroom retail comps that were included in error on page 15 onwards. That does not form part of my valuation for the subject property. So you all appreciate sometimes time is very tight. I did not get to review this before it was sent in. This is the one exception in today's batch that is not a full auto dealership, so please ignore those. We are relying on the automotive service rents that we're looking at there. So if we go back and we look at the automotive service rents, yes, there's a high end of $13 a square foot. That again is a Fountain Tire location that is optimally located downtown Winnipeg, heavy use by downtown users, and obviously they pay more to rent a space downtown, $13 being the top end. We have small auto dealer 2017 lease at $12.50, used auto sales 7,200 square feet. And then the two 16s and 17s both being auto sales. We're not selling autos here, but those provide you some background. The rest of them are automotive repair and service. You can see the range that they typically fall in is that, pardon me, call it low end of $8 into the $11 square foot range for some of them. Again, considerably smaller than the subject. Typically these are located on major thoroughfares as well. This is certainly somewhat different than that. So we have applied an upper end, or rather towards the upper end of the range as far as automotive service rents go. We have applied $11 per square foot to the whole building as shown on page 22. The estimated expenses, while we haven't disputed them, again, the air conditioning is shown as being on the whole building. I've had discussions with other assessors where they point out new developments that have HVAC units on the roof, and they attribute the whole building as being air conditioned, whereas those units are only used for heat. There is no cooling facility done. So that is significantly wrong for this one. I don't have the figures of the feet to speak to today, but we should get that changed to the proper area. But for today's purposes, we're including that in the expenses and adding the annual rent to the cost to occupy gives us our rounded value of $361,070 for the ARV. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions, Mr. Dyson?
I guess just one question, looking at your page 13 comparables, I guess excluding the auto sales ones, because you said there's no auto sale here. The rest are nowhere close to the size of the subject property, correct?
Well, in the open market, it is difficult to find difficult, if not impossible, to find arm's length leases on automotive service of the size of the subject here. The closest we have, which are significant, are the first two.
Right, but they're still quite a lot smaller, correct?
They are different in size, yes.
Okay. So we don't really know what a 26,000 square foot service garage would rent for then.
Well, what we know is that appraisal and assessment theory teaches us that typically as the size of the building increases, the overall market rental rate that one would pay for that typically decreases. So one would assume that they would decrease according to standard theory.
Well, we don't really have any proof of that in this evidence here, do we?
Well, we can't point to the market showing you a 26,000 square foot one because they don't exist. So
Well,
no, we don't have it. I can't prove it impossible.
well, I guess my point is you look at comp 4, it's 794. You look at comp 2, it's 1015, and it's what, 8 times larger?
Comp 4 and comp what?
comp two. So that one's 2,000, the other one's 17,000. If the economies of scale would apply, then wouldn't the 17,000 be much less than the comp four? I'm just using that as an example.
Well, we're simplifying things to a dramatic degree here where you're taking out all the other factors. So no, I'm not going to agree with your statement.
But isn't it simplifying it, saying that, oh, it's much larger, it should be less than the comp one and two?
I'm not saying that it should be less. I'm saying that it would typically be less in a normal circumstance from a 15 or 18,000 square foot property built in the same location at the same time, according to appraisal theory. If we do what you're saying, we're ignoring all of the other factors that come into play with regard to what a rental rate would be for a property. So I'm not going to say that the 2,000 square foot one, which you've conveniently not included the number 5, which is $12 a square foot, in the same property, you know, they're 400 square feet apart. I think I probably covered that question.
Okay, that's all my questions, thanks.
Thank you very much. Ms. Linkletter, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan, questions, sir?
Yes, just to confirm, this location is a collision and auto glass repair location.
That's correct.
Okay, the previous item in the docket was the sales repair, but didn't have a collision repair section with it.
Typically, auto dealers don't have collision repair. They're automotive service and repair. So they don't do body work, painting, things like that. They do automotive service and repair. So it was a standard auto dealer. This is a collision repair center, which typically do glass and collision repairs. So not your maintenance and tuning and oil changes and all of the typical service things that you need to do for your vehicle, but not involving collision.
Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And I do not believe I have any further questions. I think we've gone over them quite extensively by this point, but thank you very much for your presentation. We will bring forward the rebuttal, of course. And any final thoughts, sir?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No? Good. Thank you very much. We will move on to item number 8. And we'll get there in a moment here, gentlemen. And it appears we're all one right after another here in the Waverly area. So we are now at 900-1717 Waverly Street. Mr. Detchen, can we have your presentation on this address, please?
This one's 24-4993. Address is 900-1717 Waverly. Business assessment IDs 34095. The premise area is 29,076 with a base ARV per square foot of 1430. Brings the occupancy costs to, or brings the total with the occupancy cost, brings the total ARV to 494,280. Again, this is a vehicle dealership built 2005 to 2019 with effective year built of 2012. Page 2 is the overhead view. Page 3 is the exterior view of the property. Again, pages 4 or page 4 and 5 is the board revision order. You can see it was reduced from 6,422,000 to 6,027,000. Again, you can see that the board concluded that the decision was based on the assessment taxation's NOI with a cap rate of 6.5%. So again, confirming our rents for this property. Pages 7 and forward are the VCD comparables, again, mainly looking at 27 to 60 or 27 to 60, with the main focus being 42 to 60, an average being 2151, and the median being 2031. And on pages 12 forward, you can see the applicant's information from the Board of Revision, Realty. They applied 1250. We're at 1430 again, relatively close in rental rates. And then pages 15 forward is just the income and expense mailers. And that's my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions, Mr. Smith?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Linkletter, any questions of the assessor?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Seelan?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I don't think I have any further questions. So, Mr. Smith, we move on to your presentation, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So subject property, unit 900, 1717 Waverly, same location as the last two on the west side of Waverly Street in the Auto Mall. This is the Honda location in the Waverly Auto Mall. You jump forward to my page 3. Bit of background again on the property of the 2025 ARV. Yes, the 2025 realty was reduced based on cap rate alone. We have appealed this, as has the city, to the municipal board. M2 zoning, same as before. Keep that in mind with regard to the retail rates that get placed on this. And we have a property that was built in 2 stages, 2005 with addition in 2019. It is a full automobile dealership, 29,076 square feet in leasable area. And we can move forward into the photos, some of the exteriors on page number 4 and 5. And we then move into the showroom area. This was original section of the building, obviously built in 2005. And you can see its layout, the finishes. It is a little bit older. There is some mezzanine office area above, as you can see, finished as shown on page 7. And then we get into the service area at the back, parts area, etc. on pages 8 and 9. The site description, page number 10. You can see the site outlined in red. And obviously the property location is the same. I will not run through the ground we've covered many times here. It is all identical. Again, what I will stress is that placing a single retail big box rental rate taken from a power center node, reducing it however much you reduce it, or don't know how they're reduced, but and then applying that rate to the overall building is not representative of what these properties are. They should be viewed as 2 components, as we have done, and appropriate rental rates applied to those components. So that is the model that should be followed. It was agreed in many realty decisions in the past, as well as for the decisions for the Point West / Birchwood Auto Park for the current cycle. And so regarding the subject property, similar to the other full service ones that we've just been dealing of the same vintage in the same location, we're looking at a $12.50 per square foot net rental rate applied to the overall area, giving us our potential annual income of $363,450. The estimated expenses follow on the following page. Again, the entire building is not air conditioned, so I do not today have the breakout of what that air conditioned area should be, but it is not the full building. None of these auto dealers air condition their service areas. It's just not done. It's simply not a thing. So that is incorrect. We're not going to dispute it for today's purposes. But it should be corrected. The final ARV, taking all of this into account, rounded is $441,950. The addendum materials remain the same, including income expense and the supportive decisions from the 2025 cycle based on my evidence as shown. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. And questions, Mr. Deitch, please.
No new questions, thanks.
Thank you. And Mr. Sealer, any questions, sir?
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Linkletter, questions?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I will only make note, this is 7.7 to 1.
Okay,
Other than that, those are my questions. Thank you very much.
thank you.
And the rebuttal will be brought forward as the others. Any final thoughts, Mr. Smith?
Do we need to do summaries?
Oh, no, thank you, no.
No, I'm fine, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And with that, I believe that we have heard all the items scheduled. And this hearing now is adjourned. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for your presentations and your patience this morning. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
well,
you.
thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time and your patience.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you both.